Victor Charles was in the motion picture Young Dillinger in November 1964, and it was a short time after The Strangler. It was filmed within 17 days by Goldwyn Studios. It starred Nick Adams, Robert Conrad, Marianne Mobley, and Victor Buono, and it was released on May 9, 1965. The film started getting harsh criticism by the reviewers in newspapers throughout America. Their condemning reviews were a reminder to Victor Charles's poisonous The Strangler, resting in the many minds of fans who remembered his biggest debacle in his young career. Being in Young Dillinger didn't raise his Hollywood star a single inch up the ladder of success, but instead, it was an inch lower down on the Hollywood ladder. On September 5, 1965, Victor Charles was in a newspaper article reminding him about his severe weight problems, and these are a few of his words he said in defense once again. Williams are fat, and since I'm a super villain, I guess I'll have to be super fat. Victor Charles was soon in another newspaper reviewing Dean Martin's motion picture, The Silencers, where he plays the role of a villain leader of the organization of O. He was asked of what type of story it was, comedy or thriller. Victor Charles responded, "Oh no, we play it slightly tongue-in-cheek, but we also play it straight. It's as serious as Hamlet. We may have a few scenes of Hamlet with his trousers down, but it's still Hamlet." My father Sonny brought my sister Renee to the Encino house, and Victor Charles took us to the studio where they were shooting The Silencers. The scene we were watching was also in the Tunnel Cavern. They had golf carts that the guards drove, and the scene we saw was the mounted X-ray cannon attached to the phony rock ceiling in the cavern. The X-ray cannon barrel had a long transparent plastic tube that would be flashing red lights and making funny noises. On the ground was big and small chunks of phony broken rocks. Dean Martin was in the far background on the set, and there was a high jetty of broken rocks that he hid behind at the beginning of the shoot. When the scene began, we saw Dean Martin crawling down over the jetty rocks with the X-ray cannon flashing red lights and spewing steam out of its barrel. Dean Martin dodged and stopped, hesitated, and ran to a large broken rock and hid behind it. The X-ray cannon was aimed directly at where he was hiding behind it, and as the right lights, steam, and funny audio sound was heard, the large rock started slowly deflating, as if it was being melted by the X-ray cannon. It was spewing thick, molten, colored red liquid flowing down the large rock. When we closely looked at the melting large rock, it was made out of some kind of carpet material. When witnessing this scene in person, it looked completely unrealistic. But that is what Hollywood is all about, because they can make something unreal look completely real when filming through the lens of a camera, and when they have superb film editors cutting thousands of feet of camera film to make it believable. After that scene was shot, Victor Charles took us to another area within the studio where his O organization bunker was in the motion picture. The entire O interior where Victor Charles played was now destroyed, with large and small broken phony rocks everywhere and with tables overturned, and the chair he sat in the film was now upside down. The scene also struck me as being very phony looking, but once again, Hollywood can always make us believe while sitting and watching on the silver screen. The gem moment was when we followed Victor Charles into Dean Martin's dressing room on the set. There he was, Dean Martin, all alone in his dressing room and still dressed in his Matt Helm costume. The dressing room wasn't very large, but big enough to allow us to be comfortable. I was sitting no further than 3 feet away from Dean Martin. And growing up, I was a big fan of him and Jerry Lewis and all of their wonderful comedic motion pictures I saw in the El Cajon Theater. When being close to your idol, it's absolutely surreal. I noticed numerous booze bottles on a corner table with short-stemmed glasses, but Dean Martin wasn't drinking that moment, and imagine that. I can't recall my sister or me ever saying or asking a single word to him because we were totally starstruck, silent by sitting this close to our legendary celebrity. Victor Charles soon performed in the television program The Wild Wild West on September 17, 1965. The producer was Michael Garrison. Apparently, it was around this time of 1965 in September when Victor Charles was probably having financial problems due to not finding quality motion picture roles. And he had just performed in the cheesy B-grade motion picture Young Dillinger. On October 10, 1965, he was performing in the television program Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, in the episode of The Cyborg, and he played in the role of Tabor Ulrich. He shared a comment about his weight once again, saying, "Why, I'm possibly thin. I used to weigh 412. My weight is distressing only to my tailor and wardrobe people. I may lose another 50 pounds in the next year to make them happy." I was 13 years old on Halloween night on October 31st, 1965, when I had the great pleasure of being in my very first Hollywood party in our Encino house. Victor Charles invited around a dozen guests who were actors and actresses. I believe Ursula Andress and Barbara Perkins were there that evening, and I chummed around with actor Robert Strauss, who was nominated by the Academy Awards in 1953 for Best Supporting Actor in Stalag 17, playing in the role of Stanislaus Animal Kuzma. There was a special moment in the evening when Victor Charles and another actor were throwing witty words back and forth at each other and giving the guests laughing enjoyment with every barb that was thrown. I did get a little tipsy by drinking abandoned half-filled glasses of whiskey around the den. Naturally, someone knew how to play the piano, and it soon looked like an old motion picture of the 1930s where people are standing around it and singing along with the piano player throughout the night. During the entire time I lived with my Uncle Victor Charles, he never had any girlfriends over or any secretive, intimate men holding his hand as far as I saw or heard. If and when he never did have a sexual rendezvous with a woman or man, it definitely wasn't transparent to my young eyes and ears. He did love making people laugh with his lightning wit and amusing comedic imaginations, and he loved being in the center of attention throughout that October Halloween night in 1965. On November 11, 1965, newspapers were writing about the motion picture Paradise Road. starring Joan Blondell and Victor Charles. The title was new, but the storyline definitely wasn't. Paradise Road was the very same motion picture of Big Daddy in 1969. The owners of this production must have thought by waiting 4 years and changing its title, it would bring a better box office earning than before. In the end, it was still an absolute loser again. And a week later, on November 17, 1965, Victor Charles was seen in the Bob Hope television program titled Russian Roulette on the Chrysler Presents a Bob Hope comedy special. He also was working with Don Rickles and Jill St. John. To top off the year of 1965, Victor Charles was performing in Salt Lake City, Utah, in the stage production of Peter Pan. He played the role of Captain Hook at the Valley Music Hall. I eventually returned back to El Cajon to my chagrin sometime in early 1966 because my parents had apparently ironed out their marriage difficulties. What I took home with me was the many wonderful experiences of becoming a young man and leaving my boyish nature behind me for good. To this very day, I count myself lucky to have had a close relationship with my Uncle Victor Charles, Granny Grunts, Grandma Mert, Uncle Tony, and my uncle brother, David Francis. When returning to El Cajon after living in Encino, my mind and heart never embraced the home I once raised in as a child. And I was now constantly looking to the future when I could move elsewhere as far away from El Cajon as I could. My wish would soon come my way, sooner than later.